Hello, and welcome back to the ministry. And today we're going to be talking about your goals. Okay? So, in order to talk about your goals, we're going to do a breakdown sectionally on having goals. Now, you heard me say in previous ones that the scripture on the talents, that there are multiple gifts and talents that God has placed within you. And God wants to see those multiplied. Don't bury your talents. So He desires, in order for you to come into the wisdom of the assignment that you are assigned to put your hands to in this time and in this season. Okay? Because you need to be preparing for your spouse in waiting by putting your hands to the assignments that God has called you to prep and prepare. So when this man comes in, he knows what to come alongside you with. And that's another thing. For those of you, if you don't take the time to determine what your goals and your career goals are and the assignments that God has for you, by figuring out what you're gifted in and talented in anyway, how you going to get aligned with somebody that ain't aligned with you? How you going to get associated with somebody that's not aligned with the purpose of God for your life? A lot of people don't know their purpose, so they run around in marriages that are out of line and misaligned because they aren't in alignment with the alignment of the assignment that God gave them. What we out here doing? It broke my heart the other day to see somebody post talking about, I'm waiting on my God ordained spouse, but I don't actually know what my goals are. I don't have any particular goals. I don't know what I'm called to walk into. I know I'm called away from this position, but I don't know what. This is why we hear y'all. This is why we hear y'all. Because you got to figure out that before you can even call a husband to come towards you for God for you to pray for this individual, because you got an assignment on your life. Do you know what God's assignment for your life is? Do you know what that purpose is? And then you need to get into God's presence to be able to properly align the presence. Go read the book. I'm going to need you to listen to me. Listen to me carefully. Go look up, try to get the audio book, try to get the physical book. God is my CEO or something like that. And in this book, it talks about putting things before God in the element of putting them on the altar before God. How are you, when you're in your workplace, how are you serving God? All of these kinds of things, how you are operating in your life in service to the Lord. Because when you're aligned with Him and His ways, He's going to align with you in your ways. It's never going to be that He's aligning to get what you want done because He's following you. No. Understand something. Sometimes you get not an anointing, but you get anointings every season. But you get an idea and you're like, oh God, I'm going to bring this back to you. Who gave you the idea first? This is that moment of what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did God give you that idea to give you the ability to come and bring it back to Him? The embryo of the egg, was that created first? This thing that you were birthing, was that created first? Or did the vessel, which is God, take what it was that you're about to put your hands to, and He incubated it first? And He thought of the idea, and then you came forth and prayed to Him, and He gave you the idea, and then you thought that you were saying, Oh, this is the idea, God. Okay, I'm gonna put this before the altar back to you. That this I wrote down all of this stuff. Can you bless it? And God's sitting up there thinking, of course I'm gonna bless it because I'm the one who gave you the idea in the first place. See how that works? And then you sit down and you list your talents. Break down those talents. What are you good at? Write that list down. What do you do naturally? Write that list down. What is the career field that brings these things together? Perfect example. And it's funny. I accidentally clicked on something yesterday. I thought I had one link, and it was the link to my old resume where I brought together all of my talents, and it was amalgamation of what I was good at anyway. It was 8 different things I was already good at, and these 8 things, I brought them together. It's like, how could I bring those together in a career field? God gave me one choice, whether that's to be a production assistant. And I actually went ahead, twice I went and looked into this. I loved the orientation process of doing the production assistant, but at the same time, there was a hindrance because of the fact that at the time I didn't have a vehicle, and being in New York, it was a whole bunch of transit that you had to be able to. What if they needed you to go to Bronx? What if they need, and you got call times at 4:00 in the morning and all this kind of stuff. So, but also they revealed the fact that people on these sets, especially as production assistants, you're not really doing anything but assisting setups, and they thoroughly were disrespecting those people. So, there's that. But then there's the other side, which was the office side of being a production assistant, where you sit and you answer the phones, but you got to also be professional enough that if you're making contact with these individuals, they're talking about Robert De Niro's production manager or PR person gonna call on the phone and be like, I need blah, 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 blah. You're setting up, and you may even end up on the red carpets. Anybody remember the movie The Devil Wears Prada? And remember the assistant? There were 2 assistants. The main character was the assistant, and then there was the woman that was the assistant to this designer in the first place, who was the first assistant. The other one was called the second assistant, right? And this person had to know all the names from all the books, and every page. It's like, this is an entire book. You got to know everybody's name. So that when the designer is standing there, they can say the name when the person comes up and introduce themselves. The first assistant completely forgot because she had a cold that day. And the main character, who was the second assistant, she had the name off the top of her head. She was like, God will give you what you need in that moment. I got chills. God will give you what you need in that moment to remember and have that knowledge and information. So yeah, I looked into production assistants, going to red carpets, was all that type of stuff. Oh, you think I'm new to this? I'm true to this. Secondarily, podcasting. I got 3, honey, and we about to run it, girlfriend, boy. We about to run it, cause it's about structuring, understanding how to do a podcast. So much so that the mentor that helped me launch into podcasting again, I was already good at it because I had worked with somebody and did 3 podcasts for their podcast, because they contacted me out of the blue with the opportunity to do a podcast with them. And I did it. But we couldn't get the system right. At the time, the program that I use was not in operation back then. And you could only get 3 on Blog Talk. So or you would run out of space. But those podcasts still there. And I had such a wisdom on podcasting that I even know how to teach it. I know how to help you. And let me tell you, we're going to talk about this. But I knew my zone of genius to combine my other assets, my ability to talk and all of these kinds of things, topic, organization, all of this kind of stuff. Where's your zone of genius? Do you know what it is and how are you preparing for it? How does that bring things together? And I think it was a third. What was the third one? I can't think of the third one off the top of my head, but it was another one that brought all of my talents together. It had something, web design. I brought all my talents together in web development, says the person that was working on the website just yesterday, and completely forgot what that was. But it brings together writing, it brings together development, it brings together art, it brings together photographs, it brings together doing things for social media. I don't do social media because of the fact that I can do it for me, but to manage somebody else's account, my brain. I can tell you how to do it, my brain. If I had to try to manage mine and other people's, that would take my brain off of its axis. It's not something I love doing. I'm going to tell you the truth. When it comes down to me doing the activity of web design and social media, prompt prepping and all this kind of stuff, it's not something I'm in love with. It's just, I'm going to tell you, 95% of the time when I'm bored and I want my hands to be doing something, because idle hands is the devil's playground, I'll sit up there and I'll work on articles. I'll sit up there and work on what have you. Because I don't want to remain idle. I want to make sure that I'm developing and doing what it is God needs me to do in that season. So I will develop a website. I will make copy. I'm skilled in that. So what is your zone of genius? We're going to dig into this on my other channel. For those of you that see the emblem for Kingdom Creative Connective Collective with the yellow K, that's the channel that we're going to really dig into the development of business and all of this element. And we're going to break down some of the things that we're even going into now. So I don't have to dig deep here because I'm going to dig deep over there. So understanding what that zone of Jesus is, writing it down, understanding that you may be gifted in 3 different areas. Maybe you are the production assistant, the web designer, and the podcaster. How you bring them together? Maybe you're developing a conglomerate. You know, conglomerate is somebody that it's a head company, but maybe you have 3 tiers underneath of you. And each tier lines up this way, this way, this way. Understanding those tiers, understanding your pillars of how you're operating in that, and operating in the development and breakdown of how you're going to work in those areas. You see what I'm saying? So with that being said, when you start a project or you start a process, that you actually take it from dreaming element. Man, if I could do this, sit down and write it down. I'm going to tell you right now, there's a business plan template that I've had since college. And every time I want to do something that I'm trying to see what this would look like, I would use this business plan template and I would break down every section, every area, and then I would even go into WikiHow and I would look up in WikiHow, how would I perform and develop this? And I would write down section by section and keep a footnote that pointed to what the assignment of that tab was for what needed to be done in an execution process in order to execute. And I would go all the way through that 20, 25 steps, 12 steps, whatever the steps were. And that was the breakdown of accomplishing that. Then I would look into actually doing that. What would it take for me to get these steps that I just created in this business plan done and developed? And then maybe you have 3 zones of genius. Like, I'm a podcaster, I'm a web designer, or was desiring to do production assistance. I was even looking into being a stylist once because I started in fashion. You pick what is your zone of genius and you break that down, because maybe you have adjacent things, because each of these things have something that can associate with one another. Let's just use the 3 that I mentioned and play around with that, okay? Maybe you're a stylist. You love style. You love fashion. You love doing things to that capacity. You're going to sit down and you're going to write your business plan around a fashion design company. Where can you start easiest? What does that look like? Maybe you are a design person, and because you're into fashion like that, you can draw croquis all day. You can download you a croquis. They're available in template all day long on Google. Put it in a paint document, resize it to the fullness of a page. Most croquis, you want one that, is it supposed to be 14 inches long? I think it's 14 inches long, because that pulls, that gives you more expansion, and you want to create a digital version of that. I used to do digital art for my fashion designs, and I created these beautiful, they used to call them, remember the old site, and some of you may never have heard of this, called Celebrity Dolls. And my cousin, when I was visiting her house, she was playing around with this application on the computer, which was Celebrity. You could dress them. And I was like, oh my God. So what I did was I started doing paint shop, and I would take a blank croquis. I developed it and made these dolls in the paint shop. And then I would, instead of dressing it like the Celebrity Doll thing was, I would create my own garments over these croquis that I had created. And I'd keep those. So and then there was a book. It was this thick. I loved that book. It was called A Fashion Portfolio. It was like it was like, there are 3 books as a fashion designer that you should have. It's a fashion portfolio book, meaning this book is like a textbook on how to develop a fashion portfolio if you're a design styling person. Second book, the 9 heads. If you're the designer, meaning you're the person doing the artwork, 9 heads shows you how to create all things in relation to the body, croquis, heads, faces, all that kind of stuff. And then there's a third one. If you're a designer that does pattern making, it's called, is it called Pattern Maker? I'm not sure, but it has a woman in a plaid red outfit on the front cover. You want the one with the plaid red outfit, not the one that's in blue. The one in blue, they cut that thing up and put it in a spiral binder, and that sucker is ugly. That book, that's a messed up book. They messed the whole original book. You want the one with the leaflet pages that you can pull out. But let's say you pick that up, and then you want to do it from a designer's perspective. Now you want to test it. I need you to go and look up customizable designs, or shall I say, done for you. So you can go and create patterns and then input it, just like you do on these sites that you can drop a pattern in and make your own sweater. You can drop a pattern in and make your own t-shirt. Drop a pattern in and you choose the season that you want and look at the clothing that they have available that you can alter and do a test run, A/B test it, of a shop that has whatever the amount of clothing that you want. Multiple pattern, maybe you got pants, top, this, that. You want to do 12 pieces. You just test that. You create your color scheme. You can do a mood board for it. Pinterest, favorite mood board place. There used to be a thing called what the hell was that? It was something similar to a mood board. They now have a new one. I can't think of the new one just yet. But you can do a whole mood board like that. And then you can drag and drop the pattern because you develop, as the artist, you develop the pattern. And then you can set up sales, and depending on what kind of platform you use, there you go. You can sell it on Facebook. You can sell it on TikTok. You can sell. It depends on if you can integrate whatever that customizable web page was into your Facebook, into what have you, and then try to test your selling capability. Now, the testing, you got to go and gain traffic. So, understanding that 9 months of developing A/B testing, checking to see if you can make their product, da 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 da. If you can manage to get that thing in alignment, then you move to your next adjacent product. Maybe you're a podcaster. You need to get the word out on your product, which is a piece of fashion design. Hey, I can do a podcast where I'm helping people with their fashion as a stylist. I want to be a stylist. So because I want to be a stylist, I'm going to start a podcast. So you're going to take a podcast. You're going to look at all the topics. Here, hint, hint. If you want to be a podcaster on fashion, go to the grocery store, pick up the 5 top magazines. Before, when I was doing it, In Style was the magazine. Esquire, Harper's Bazaar. It was 2 others that I used to, was a Cosmopolitan, and it was a 5th one that I used to always grab whenever I had the money to grab it, or my parents were there. I was like, Mom, can I get these magazines? Because I was a fashion student. Then you look at their article types. Then you're going to write down the titles, and these are the topics you're going to talk about in your podcast. And then you're going to share a link in the description of your podcast that's going to link to your store. See how that works? Of your merch. Hoodies, shirts, dresses, all this kind of stuff. Interest Prints has the ability that you can create a print, and then you can take that printed pattern and put it on a clothing item and have a website under them. They may not be the best. You could probably find better ones. It was another one that I had found, but I forgot the name of it is. Now, maybe you've moved from that phase and you want to become a production assistant. Maybe you want to test out your styling capability and skill. Go to a event like a Made in Manhattan. Shoot, if you can go to New York and go to Made in Manhattan or Made in New York, because I can call it Made in Manhattan because that was the name of the movie that I like. It's called Made in New York. NY. Made in NYC. So you can see what it would take to be a production assistant and stylist on a production. You see what I'm saying? 3 different phases. You take 9 months on one, prepping your designs, A/B testing it. Then you take another 9 months and you develop a podcast. And then you look in the Facebook groups and find the podcast promotional groups. There's a ton of them, ton of communities on podcast promotion. And you drop your podcast in there every week and people will start following your podcast that way. Then you want to do production assistance. I just gave you that. But each one, you're going to spend about 9 months on it, see if you want to do it. Because it's an opportunity to test it before it catches flame. So yeah. What's the next one? And once you start thriving, don't leave either of these areas. Stay on track with your merch. Stay on track. Check your analytics. Make sure integrate that into, if you got a YouTube channel that you're podcasting on, because YouTube podcasting is good. And I use Anchor for podcasting. If you're doing a visual podcast, they just integrated visual podcasting as well, so you can do it in two different places. Now you've done all of these things, you need to find people you can partner up with. Who are you partnering up with in this season in order for you to be able to thrive? How are you creating teams? Where are you finding those people? Hint, hint, Facebook community. Hint, hint, Pinterest community. If you're into fashion, you definitely need to go into the Pinterest community, because they always got clothes. You know how many people I get clicks on my Pinterest page so often? Last I checked, every month as of now, I get 12K impressions. And they be clicking on clothing. They be hello. Now, we already talked about understanding that if you're going to develop a company, you need to understand the 5 key members of that company and the board. Now, Minister I was listening to the other day, she literally was saying this. We was already talked about the people that you are friends with and associated with. They need to be godly aligned, because you know what? These are people that will try to usurp your crown if they don't like the fact that you're getting blessed. And if you make a board, let me hear you when I say this, that you create a board. Somebody approached me one time about this. Lie to you not. Quick story time. I was in the library. I was sitting there having a conversation, and somebody came to me. And I know God sent the individual that was sitting between us, because this person was sitting there while me and an individual was talking, and this person brought me an offer. And they were like, I want you to be a part of my board of trustees in relation to this company that I'm working on. And I was like, being a representative for this company. Okay, I like the sound of this opportunity. But see, this person didn't know that I was smart. And at the time, I was going to my business events that I used to go to, which was full of business people. And I had an event that night. I went to that event, and I brought to the people that I was crossing paths with, because for me, that was a conversation starter. I started asking them, hey, what do you think if a person wanted to become part of a board of trustees, blah, 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 blah. And these people were giving me business wisdom. And that person that contacted me is like, I'm going to call you back on Monday about this. When they called me back on Monday, when I tell you, I ran down all the business advice I got over that weekend. This person was so shook, they ran away from me so fast because they was trying to shyster me that weekend. Don't get kissed by Judas. Because when you become part of a board, or you develop a board, you know that the board members can veto your headship. This is why you need to make sure, because somebody's seeking to usurp your authority. I remember years ago, I was in college and it was a project. I never wanted leadership on this project, but the other 2 people was like, I don't feel like working on it. And they were like, I don't feel like working on it. Well, you're good at what you do. Why don't you just do it? You be the leader. You help us. And because I'm an organized person, I organized every person's assignment. I created everything in relation to it. I put together PowerPoints. I set up everything. I made sure to send the original copy of the PowerPoint the day before the project. Let me explain something new. This person came up the morning of the project. I had to go get it off of a computer to have it sent. And this person, I should have known when they said, don't worry about it, I got it. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking this person's being a good team member. This guy goes up there because I didn't have it, right? Because I didn't go get it and put it on my own personal flash drive. He goes up there. He done took the project that I did. He must have cranked it out overnight, or he had already made it during the time frame in which I was doing blood, sweat, and tears over this sucker. And he integrated what I had into that PowerPoint that he created, and then he presented it like a salesman trying to sell you a car. And when I tell you, he done usurped my authority, and when I dragged his behind to the professor because he performed it with charisma, the professor said, "You're wrong." I said, "I'm wrong." Now, I'll take that I was wrong, that I should have went and got the document like I said I was going to do, but I let him do that. And that was wrong of me. They are attempting to kill what you put in your hands to, especially those of you that are called to high power industries. Don't play with these folks. You have to be careful of these individuals becoming jealous of what your headship is getting in the favor of God. And these people are waiting, just like that man stabbed me in the back over that business project in college. Think they won't do it in your workplace environment, especially depending on what industry you're called to? Cutthroat. They cutthroat in a minute. So understand, your opportunity to come to the table is en route to you. You know, I can't tell you how many words I've been getting lately talking about the opportunity is on its way. The opportunity is on its way. The opportunity is on its way. Be prepared that an opportunity is on its way, and you have been given the green light to be established in what you've been putting your hands to behind closed doors. What you put your hands to, God's going to bless on, breathe on, and establish it. And yes, you're going to get a false offer that's going to sound way too good to be true. You need to put that before the Lord, because sometimes in these seasons, God needs to set you up to get you in the place that he needs for you to be. Always take any offer that's given to you back to God in the throne room of God. Fast over it for a day, whatever you got to need to do. And God will show you that is for you, that isn't for you. Because some things can look like a very good thing, but they won't be a God thing. Or it's a God thing, it's just out of season. So you need to pray over the opportunity. And you're going to plan it out. Because sometimes God will let the wrong opportunity come to you so that you will mentally plan it out. Understand how you would do it if you were to do it. And then he allows that in your rest, your rebranding of how you're going to do that, so on and so forth, he's going to then calibrate you to run this triathlon that you're about to run with the right project that's going to be presented to you at a different table. You understand what I'm saying? In order for you to rebrand and reset, recalibrate, and be fully aligned for what it is that you're going to do. And then when you come in, you're going to eliminate the task that you have to do. You're going to automate